The year was 4217 by the Galactic Standard Calendar. Earth had been a member of the Galactic Council for more than 2,000 years. In all that time, humanity had never fired a single weapon in anger. The other species called them the sleeping giant. They believed humans had forgotten how to fight. They were wrong. Admiral Yuna stood at the window of her small apartment on Earth. Watching the sun set over the Pacific Ocean, she was 58 years old, retired from military service, and now worked as a diplomatic liaison. Her job was simple. She smiled at aliens. She signed papers. She kept the peace. The peace was everything. Humanity had nearly destroyed itself in the great wars of the 22nd century. When they finally reached the stars and met other species, they made a promise. No more war. No more violence. They would be peaceful no matter what. For 2,000 years, they kept that promise. On a colony world called New Busan, a 12-year-old girl named Somi was packing her bag. The Galactic Council had announced something called the Cultural Exchange Program. Human children between 8 and 14 years old would travel to special schools across the galaxy. They would learn about other species. They would make friends. They would help build a better future. Somi was excited. She had never left New Busan before. She had never met an alien in person. Her father, Jinho, watched her pack with a heavy heart. Something felt wrong to him, but he could not explain it. Ginho was a simple man. He worked as an engineer at the colony's power plant. His wife had died when Somi was 3 years old. Since then, he had raised his daughter alone. She was everything to him. His whole world, the transport ship, arrived on a Tuesday morning. 50,000 children from across human space were being taken in the first wave. Somi hugged her father at the spaceport. She promised to send messages every day. She promised to tell him everything about her new school. Ginho watched the ship rise into the sky until it became a tiny dot of light. Then it was gone. The first week, Somi sent messages every day, just as she promised. She talked about the ship, the other children, the nice Korath teachers who gave them snacks and showed them movies. The Korath were the oldest species in the galaxy. They had ruled the council for 10,000 years. They seemed kind. The second week, the messages became shorter. Somi said the teachers were very busy. She said the communication systems were having problems. She said not to worry. The third week, there were no messages at all. Jinho tried to contact the program administrators. He was told that the children were in an important phase of their education. Communication would resume soon. He should be patient. He should trust the process. But Jinho could not be patient. He could not trust. He was a father, and his daughter was silent. He used all his savings to buy a ticket to the educational facility. It was located on a small moon in Korath space. 3 weeks of travel from New Busan. When he arrived, guards stopped him at the door. They told him visits were not permitted. They told him to go home. Jinho did not go home. He waited outside the facility for 2 days. On the third day, he saw something that broke his heart. Through a window, he saw children in white medical gowns. They were connected to machines. They were being studied like animals. He saw Somi. She was crying. Jinho tried to break through the doors. The guards beat him and threw him out. They told him if he came back, he would be arrested. They told him his daughter was property of the Galactic Council now. Property. Jinho returned to his ship with blood on his face, fire in his heart. He had been a peaceful man his whole life. He had never raised his hand against another being. But in that moment, something ancient woke up inside him. Something that humanity had buried for 2,000 years. He sent an encrypted message to an old friend. They had been roommates at the military academy, back when humans still trained soldiers just in case. Her name was Yuna. She was now an admiral, even if retired. The message was simple. It contained coordinates, images from his recording device, and 3 words. They took her. Admiral Yuna received the message at midnight. She watched the footage with steady eyes. She saw the children. She saw the machines. She saw the fear on their small faces. She made 3 calls that night. The first was to General Doan, 62-year-old veteran who had fought in humanity's last civil war. He had spent the past 40 years teaching history at the military academy. He taught young people about the old wars so they would never repeat them. Now, she asked him to remember those wars for a different reason. The second call was to Captain Tyone, commander of a patrol vessel near the border. She gave him a single order: watch everything. Trust nothing. The third call was to Intelligence Officer Murray, a young woman known for her ability to find secrets that others wanted to keep hidden. Una asked her one question: what is the Galactic Council really doing with our children? Murray began her work immediately. She was the best at what she did. Within 48 hours, she found the truth. It was worse than anyone imagined. The cultural exchange program was a lie. Resolution 7742 was not about education. It was about control. The Koroth had grown afraid of humanity. Humans grew too fast, adapted too quickly, and had too much potential. The children were being studied so the Council could find a way to make humanity weaker, smaller, safer. They wanted to change human DNA. They wanted to create a new kind of human, one that would never be a threat. Murray sent her findings to Admiral Una with trembling hands. She had uncovered the greatest betrayal in galactic history. Una read the report in silence. When she finished, she looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, 50,000 human children were being treated as experiments. Somewhere out there, a little girl named Somi was waiting for her father to save her. 2,000 years of peace. It was about to end. The evidence spread through humanity like fire through dry grass. Encrypted messages passed from ship to ship, colony to colony, family to family. Within 1 week, every human in the galaxy knew the truth. The Galactic Council had stolen their children. The Galactic Council was experimenting on them. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake on Earth. The World Parliament held an emergency session. Representatives from all 47 colony worlds attended through holographic links. Admiral Una stood before them with Murray's report in her hands. She spoke calmly. She presented facts. She showed images and recordings. When she finished, the chamber was silent. Then slowly, an old man rose from his seat. His name was General Doan. His hair was white, his back was bent, but his eyes burned with a fire that had never died. He had fought in the last civil war 60 years ago. He had seen what humanity could do when pushed too far. He spoke for words that changed everything. We remember how to fight. The vote was unanimous. Earth declared that Resolution 7742 was void. They demanded the immediate return of all children. They gave the Galactic Council 30 standard days to comply. Ambassador Haniel was given the terrible task of delivering this message. She had served as Earth's representative to the Council for 15 years. She believed in diplomacy. She believed in peace. But she also had 2 grandchildren, who had been taken in the second wave of transports. She stood before the full Council and spoke humanity's demands. Her voice did not shake. Her eyes did not waver. Councilor Veth, leader of the Koroth and head of the Council, listened with what looked like amusement. When Haniel finished, he laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound that echoed through the great chamber. You humans are amusing, he said. You have been tamed for 2,000 years. You have forgotten your claws. You have forgotten your teeth. What will you do? Send us angry messages? Write formal complaints? Ambassador Haniel did not respond to his mockery. She simply bowed her head slightly and left the chamber. Her mission was complete. She had delivered the warning. Now it was time to prepare. Across human space, ancient facilities woke from their long sleep. Weapons factories that had been sealed for 2 millennia hummed back to life. Ships that had been converted to carry cargo were quietly refitted. Hidden databases containing battle strategies, ship designs, and weapon specifications were unlocked. Humanity had never truly disarmed. They had simply hidden their weapons and hoped they would never need them. Again, General Doan took command of the ground forces. He was old. Yes. His body was weak, but his mind was as sharp as ever, and the young soldiers looked at him with something close to worship. He had been teaching them history for decades. Now he would teach them how to make it. Captain Tyin received new orders. His small patrol vessel was joined by 200 warships that seemed to appear from nowhere. They had been disguised as mining platforms, research stations, and cargo haulers. In truth, they were the most advanced fighting ships humanity had ever built. We kept them ready, Admiral Una explained, when Tyin expressed his shock. Just in case. We always hoped we would never need them. Across the galaxy, the other species watched with confusion. What were the humans doing? They had been peaceful for so long. Surely they would not actually fight. Surely this was just posturing. It's just political theater. They did not understand. Intelligence Officer Murray continued her work. She dug deeper into Council communications, finding more secrets, more lies. The children were being held at 127 different stations across Council space. Each station had different security. Each station held between 500 and 3,000 human children. She created detailed maps. She found guard schedules, access codes, and weak points. She gathered everything the military would need. Meanwhile, on Research Station Core 7, Somi was learning the truth of her situation. The nice teachers were gone. The snacks had stopped. Now there were only doctors in white coats who took blood samples and ran strange tests. She was scared. All the children were scared. But Somi remembered something her father had told her when she was very young. He had said that being brave did not mean not being scared. Being brave meant being scared and doing the right thing anyway. Somi began to watch the guards. She memorized their routines. She made friends with the other children and whispered plans in the dark. They were just kids, yes, but they were human kids. And humans never stopped fighting, even when hope seemed lost. The 30-day deadline came and went. The Council did not return the children. Counselor Veth sent a message to Earth saying that humanity should accept reality. The children belonged to the Council now. Resistance was pointless. Admiral Una received his message in her command center on Earth. She read it once, then deleted it. She turned to her communications officer. "Open a channel," she said. "All frequencies. Every species in the galaxy needs to hear this." The officer obeyed. Within seconds, Una's face appeared on screens across known space. Humans stopped what they were doing to watch. Aliens paused in confusion. Even Counselor Veth looked up from his throne. Admiral Una spoke slowly and clearly. Her voice was calm, but beneath the calm was something ancient. Something dangerous 2,000 years ago, she began. Humanity made a choice. We chose peace. We chose to put down our weapons and join the galactic community. We chose to be good neighbors, good partners, good friends. She paused. We made that choice because we wanted to, because we believed it was right. Not because we forgot how to fight, not because we became weak. We chose peace because we were strong enough to make that choice. Her eyes hardened. You took our children. You experiment on them like animals. You laughed at our warnings. You believed we were tame. Another pause. When she spoke again, her voice was ice. You were wrong. She leaned forward, and her final words carried the weight of 2,000 years of buried rage. You took our children. May the stars forgive you because we will not. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, silence fell. Then, in Council space, alarms began to sound. The first human warships had crossed the border. The war had begun. The Galactic Council expected chaos. They expected an emotional, unorganized attack from a species that had not fought a war in 2,000 years. They expected easy victory. What they got was annihilation. In the first 72 hours, Captain Tyon's fleet destroyed the Council's entire border defense network. 17 battle stations fell. 42 warships were disabled or destroyed. The Korath commanders could not believe what they were seeing. The humans moved with perfect coordination, striking exactly where defenses were weakest. This was not rage. This was calculation. Lieutenant Yunji flew her fighter through the burning wreckage of a Korath carrier. She was 26 years old. She had trained as a pilot, but never expected to see real combat. Now she was the leader of Storm Squadron. They had just achieved something impossible. 40-7 enemy fighters destroyed. One human fighter lost. Yunji felt no joy in the victory. She felt only cold determination. Somewhere out there, children were waiting to be rescued. Every enemy ship she destroyed was one less obstacle between those children and freedom. On the ground, Sergeant Hyunwoo led the first rescue team into Research Station Delta Nine. His soldiers moved through the corridors with deadly efficiency. Guards fell before they could even raise their weapons. Security systems failed as hackers back on Earth disabled them remotely. Within 40 minutes, the station was secured. 3,000 human children were freed. Hyunwoo found them in a large holding area, huddled together in fear. When they saw human soldiers, they began to cry. Some ran forward to hug the soldiers. Others were too weak to move. One small boy, no more than 8 years old, looked up at Hyunwoo with wide eyes. "Are you here to take us home?" he asked. Hyunwoo knelt down to look the boy in the face. "Yes," he said. "We are here to take you home." Across the galaxy, other species watched in shock. The Korath had ruled for 10,000 years. They had never lost a battle so quickly, so completely. How were the humans doing this? The answer was simple. Humanity had spent 2,000 years preparing for a war they hoped would never come. Their cargo ships were warships in disguise. Their research satellites were weapons platforms. Their mining stations were military bases. They had pretended to be sheep, but they had never stopped being wolves. Councillor. Mira of the Velen species had opposed the Korath's plan from the beginning. She had argued that taking human children was wrong and dangerous. The other counselors had ignored her. Now, watching the destruction unfold, she made a decision. She contacted Admiral Yuna through secret channels. She offered information. Locations of children. Weakness and defenses. Everything she knew, Yuna accepted. She did not trust Counselor Myra completely, but she would use any advantage to save the children faster. Every hour mattered. Every minute mattered. On Research Station Koro 7, Somi heard the distant sounds of battle. Ships were fighting in orbit above them. The guards were nervous, rushing around and shouting orders. They were planning to move the children to a more secure location. Somi knew this was her chance. She had spent weeks watching, planning, and preparing. Now she gathered the other children in the sleeping area. Their faces were pale with fear, but when she spoke, they listened. "The guards are scared," she whispered. "They are not paying attention to us. If we work together, we can fight back." A boy named Ji-won shook his head. "We are just kids." "What can we do?" Somi grabbed his hand. "We are human," she said. "Humans never give up. Our parents are coming for us. We just need to hold on until they arrive." The children looked at each other. They were scared. They were tired. They had been poked and tested and treated like objects for weeks. But deep inside them, something stirred. The same thing that had woken in their parents. The same thing that had driven humanity to cross the stars. They agreed to fight when the guards came to move them. The children were ready. They had stolen tools from the maintenance closets. They had blocked doors with furniture. They had disabled security cameras. The guards expected obedient, frightened children. Instead, they found a small army. Somi led the charge. She was only 12 years old, but in that moment, she was a warrior. The children fought with everything they had. They bit, scratched, kicked, and swung their stolen tools. It was not a clean victory. Several children were hurt. The guards were eventually driven back, but they would return with reinforcements. Somi knew they did not have much time. She found the communication room and sent out a distress beacon. She did not know if anyone would hear it. She did not know if help would come in time. Far away. On the command ship Victory's Promise, General Doan received the beacon. His old eyes went wide when he saw the source. Research Station Koro 7. Over 4,000 children. Fighting back against their captors, he turned to Admiral Yuna. who stood beside him. "These children," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "They carry our spirit." Yuna nodded. She looked at the tactical map showing all 127 stations still holding human children. Rescuing them all would take months. Some children would suffer longer than others. Some might not survive, but they would try. They would rescue every single one. "All of them," General Doan said, as if reading her thoughts. "We rescue all of them." Yuna gave the order. Across human space, more fleets launched. More soldiers deployed. The full might of humanity, hidden for 2,000 years, was finally revealed. The Korath had believed humans were tame. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The war was 3 months old. Humanity was winning. Victory came with a heavy price. Admiral Yuna stood alone in her quarters on the command ship, staring at the list of the fallen. 4,000 soldiers dead. 12 ships destroyed. And still, 43 stations remained to be liberated. 43 stations where human children waited, prayed, and hoped. She had to make impossible choices every day. Which stations to attack first? Which children to save now, and which to save later? Every decision meant some would suffer longer than others. It was the hardest thing she had ever done, far from the front lines. Gunho could not sit idle. He had been a quiet man his whole life. He had never held a weapon, never raised his voice in anger. But his daughter was still out there, still waiting for rescue. He joined a volunteer corps that followed behind the military. There were civilians who provided humanitarian aid to liberated stations. Doctors, engineers, teachers, counselors, people who helped put broken children back together. On one station, Jinho found himself treating a wounded Korath soldier. The alien was young, barely more than a child himself. He had been following orders, doing what he was told. Now he lay bleeding on the floor, terrified of the humans standing over him. Ginho knelt beside him and began treating his wounds. Another volunteer, a woman named Bahi, helped him. She was a medic with gentle hands and kind eyes. She had lost her own son to the program. He was still waiting to be rescued on a station deep in Korath space. "Why are you helping me?" The Korath soldier whispered. "I am your enemy." Ginho cleaned the wound carefully. "You are someone's child," he said. "Just like my daughter is someone's child. I cannot hate you for following orders." Bahi nodded in agreement. "We fight because we must," she said, "but we do not become monsters. If we lose our kindness, we lose everything worth fighting for." The Korath soldier stared at them with confused eyes. He had been taught that humans were dangerous animals, barely civilized, driven only by rage. But these humans were treating him with compassion, even though they had every reason to hate him. He did not understand. On the command ship, Banal Yuna received new intelligence. Counselor Veith's own advisors had turned against him. The war was going badly for the Korath. Their fleet was being destroyed piece by piece. Their stations were falling one by one. The other species in the council were refusing to send reinforcements. The Korath were alone, and they were losing. General Doan proposed a simple plan. Total destruction. Crush the Korath completely. Make them pay for what they did. Make sure they could never threaten humanity again. Many in the military agreed. The anger was still fresh. The images of children connected to machines still burned in their minds. Vengeance seemed like justice. But Yuna hesitated. She called a meeting of the senior officers. She asked a simple question. "What do we want the galaxy to remember about this war?" General Doan frowned. "We want them to remember never to harm our children again," Yuna nodded. "And if we destroy the Korath completely, burn their worlds, kill their civilians, they will fear us," Doan said. "Yes," Yuna agreed. "They will fear us. But will they respect us? Will they trust us? Or will they just wait for their chance to strike back?" She stood and walked to the window. Outside, stars burned in the eternal darkness. "We broke 2,000 years of peace," she said. "We had to. Our children gave us no choice. But now we must decide what kind of peace we want to build." She turned to face the officers. "I say we offer terms of surrender. We demand our children back, all of them. We demand justice for those who ordered this crime. But we do not destroy the Korath as a species. We do not commit genocide in the name of protection, some officers protested. The Korath had shown no mercy. Why should humanity show any? Yuna raised her hand for silence. They will remember this day for 10,000 years, she said. Let them remember that humanity had the power to destroy them and chose not to. Let them remember that we are better than they feared. The vote was close, but Yuna won. Humanity would offer terms. Meanwhile, on Station Cora 7, Somi and the children had held out for 72 hours. They were exhausted, hungry, and some were injured. The guards had tried several times to retake the station, but the children had fought them off each time. Somi sat in the corner of the communication room, clutching a broken pipe that had become her weapon. Her hands were shaking. Her eyes were heavy. She did not know how much longer they could last. Then she heard something, a distant rumble. The sound of ships entering orbit. The communication panel crackled to life. This is Sergeant Hunhua of the Human Liberation Force. We are here. Hold on, children. We are coming. Somi felt tears streaming down her face. She did not try to stop them. Minutes later, the station doors exploded inward. Human soldiers poured through, securing the corridors with practiced precision. Hyunwoo himself led the team that reached the children. He found them huddled together, exhausted but alive. Somi stood at the front, still holding her broken pipe. She was covered in dirt and bruises, but her eyes were fierce. Hyunwoo knelt before her. You held this station, he said. You are the bravest person I have ever met. Somi shook her head. I am not brave, she whispered. I was scared the whole time. Hyunwoo smiled. That is what makes you brave. Later that day, Somi was taken to a medical ship. She was cleaned, fed, and examined by doctors. They told her she would be fine. They told her she was safe now. Then a screen activated in her room. Her father's face appeared. Ginho looked at his daughter through the screen. Tears ran down his cheeks. He could not speak. Words failed him. Somi touched the screen gently. Appa, she said. I knew you would come. 6 months after the first shot was fired, the war ended. Not with a final great battle, but with a quiet signing ceremony on a space station orbiting Earth. They called it the Treaty of New Seoul. Named after one of the first colony worlds to lose children to the program, Admiral Yuna stood on one side of the table. Counselor Mira of the Velen stood on the other. Between them lay a document that would reshape the galaxy. Counselor Veth was not there. He had been arrested by his own people 3 weeks earlier. He would face trial for crimes against sentient beings. The evidence against him was overwhelming. He would never lead anyone again. Ambassador Haniel read the terms aloud. Every human child returned immediately. Full disclosure of all experiments conducted. Reparations to affected families. The Korath species banned from holding council leadership for 500 years. Humanity given permanent veto power on any resolution affecting their species the galaxy had expected humanity to demand. More territory, resources, submission. They had proven themselves the greatest military power in known space. They could have taken anything they wanted. Instead, asked only for justice and safety. When the signing was complete, Ambassador Haniel rose to deliver humanity's final message. Representatives from 100 species watched. Some had fought against humanity. Some had secretly helped. Most had simply watched in fear and wonder. Haniel spoke slowly, choosing each word with care. We did not fight for empire, she said. We did not fight for revenge. We fought for our children. That is finished now. She paused, letting her words sink in. We offer the galaxy a choice. Learn from this. Grow with us. Build something better together. Or continue to fear us and watch us from afar. Her eyes swept across the assembled representatives. Either way, know this. We will never again allow our children to come to harm. Not by your hands. Not by anyone's hands. We are not tame. We never were. But we are not monsters either. We are parents. and parents protect their young. She sat down. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then slowly, Counselor Myra began to clap. Others joined her. Not all, but enough. It was not forgiveness. It was not trust. But it was a beginning. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to change. Species that had feared humanity started to approach them with caution, then curiosity, and something like respect. The Korath rebuilt their society, learning painful lessons about arrogance and cruelty. General Doan returned to teaching. His classes were more popular than ever. Young people wanted to learn about the war, about the sacrifices, about the choices their leaders had made. Captain Taeyun was promoted to admiral. He spent his time rebuilding the fleet, not for war, but for protection. Never again would humanity be caught unprepared. Lieutenant Yunji retired from active combat and became a flight instructor. She taught young pilots how to fly, how to fight, and how to know when fighting was necessary. Sergeant Hyunwoo received the highest honors humanity could give. He refused most of them. The only reward he wanted was seeing the children he rescued grow up safe and happy. Mireille, the intelligence officer, continued her work. But now she focused on preventing conflicts before they started. She believed that the best wars were the ones that never happened. Bahi the medic opened a clinic on New Busan. She treated humans and aliens alike. The young Korath soldier, whose life she saved, became one of her assistants. He worked to rebuild trust between their species, one patient at a time. Ginho returned to his simple life as an engineer. He never spoke publicly about the war. He did not want fame or recognition. He only wanted his daughter, and Somi grew up, 5 years after the war. She stood at the entrance of the Galactic Academy of Interspecies Relations. She was 17 now, tall and strong, with her father's quiet determination in her eyes. She was the first human to attend the academy since the war. She wore a small pin on her collar. It showed a stylized image of a human hand holding a child's hand, set against a backdrop of stars. It had become the symbol of the war, of humanity's fierce love for its young. Ginho watched from the audience. Beside him sat a Korath father. He was the soldier Bo he had saved years ago. His own daughter was also starting at the academy today. The two fathers sat together, different species, once enemies. Now, united by the hope that their children would build a better world, Admiral Yuna, retired once again, sent a recorded message that played on the great screens. "We proved that humanity remembers how to fight," she said. "Now let us prove that we also remember how to forgive, how to build, and how to hope. The children we saved will inherit a galaxy that feared us. Let them transform it into one that loves us." Then Somi stepped to the podium to give her entrance speech. She looked out at the assembled species. She saw faces that had once been enemies. She saw faces that had been friends. She saw faces she did not recognize at all. She remembered the dark days on Research Station Cora 7. She remembered the fear, the pain, the desperate hope. She remembered holding a broken pipe and waiting for rescue, but she also remembered the soldiers who came for her. She remembered her father's face on the screen. She remembered learning that she was never alone, that her people would move the stars themselves to bring her home. She leaned into the microphone and spoke. "My name is Somi," she said. 5 years ago, I was a scared little girl holding a broken pipe, waiting for someone to save me. Today I stand before you as proof that love is stronger than fear, as proof that mercy is stronger than vengeance, as proof that humanity fights for its future." She smiled, and in that smile was the strength of a species that had chosen peace, lost it, and chosen it again. "We were called the sleeping giant," she continued. "They said we had forgotten how to fight. But they were wrong. We never forgot. We simply chose not to. And when they took our children, when they gave us no choice, we showed them what humans truly are." Her voice rose. Carrying across the silent chamber, "We are not conquerors. We are not destroyers. We are protectors. We are parents. We are humans. And we will always, always come for our children." The chamber erupted in applause. Humans and aliens alike rose to their feet. In that moment, the galaxy saw something new. not the terrifying warriors who had shattered fleets and toppled empires. Not the sleeping giant finally awakened. They saw hope, and hope Somi knew was the strongest weapon of all.